Welcome to the Ben Buzz. I'm Benny King, and college football week 4 is here. Now, we've had a great first 3 weeks. It really has been. I mean, the fans, the bands, the atmosphere, everything, the stadiums, everything has been so amazing thus far. The ranked matchups, the upsets, and I don't expect it to stop anytime soon, as week 4 is set to certainly not disappoint with several key matchups that I'll get into later. Huge implications and huge in-conference games. That's right. Conference games are here in week 4. Huge implications this week. Now, I'm going to get into some of the picks of games where there's just one ranked team. Then I'll get into some ranked matchups. Then I'll do another installment of the Buzzsaw. And then I'll get into my top 25. Now, first, UAB's going on the road at number 15, Tennessee. 15, Tennessee, they really showed out. Me and Jack hated on them for jumping up that high, but it was really just they should have had them already up there, and then jumping up 7 spots at random was odd, but they certainly deserved their ranking at number 15. I got to say, they played great and really probably should have won that game against Georgia. And, I mean, that guy, Joey Aguilar, can play. That is a stud on the QB side. I mean, oh my gosh, he played great, and it really wasn't his fault that they lost. I mean, giving up a huge 4th and 8, like a 40-yard play to Georgia towards the end of the game, and a 2-point conversion, and then having your kicker shank, that's not on him. Joey Aguilar played amazing, and that loss wasn't on him. He played more than well enough to win that game. They were blowing out Georgia at one point. Still can't believe they gave that one away, and I think they're really going to respond greatly against a fairly decent UAB team, but I think Tennessee is really going to be motivated and really need to put them away to feel better, not just up their confidence in the media or the fans, but as a team, and see how that bodes for them going forward. I got them 48-13. Then we got an interesting in-state game where we got Oregon going on the road at Oregon State. Oregon State's going on the road at Oregon. This is going to be really interesting. Oregon, of course, number 6 team in the nation. Probably could be higher, but they haven't really played anyone yet. So I get it. I think we should hold off on putting them too high until they beat Penn State, which begs the question, why is Penn State at 2? We'll get to that later. But Oregon is looking really great. Dan Lanning is great. And a few years ago, they brought in Dante Moore from UCLA to sit behind Dylan Gabriel for a year, and you can see that it's paying dividends the year that he sat, where he learned on the bench. And, I mean, he's been playing phenomenal. And even though Oregon State, I mean, it's an in-state game, so I give them a little credit. Maybe they put up a decent fight, but, Oregon's just too good. Unfortunately, this might not be too much of a rivalry anymore, and they already left the conference, and Oregon State's kind of staying in the Pac-12. They're trying to rebuild that conference, but, of course, Oregon will not be there. And I'm worried the rivalry's kind of dying, especially because it's going to become, it has become less and less, competitive. So I think Oregon's got this one 41-20. Dante Moore, Dan Lanning, all the guys they brought in. They're so great at recruiting and the transfer portal. This team is stellar. Then we got Kent State going to Florida State. This is an interesting one. Florida State has looked great. Castellanos is great. And they haven't had a real test since that Alabama game, but they played so great, and they've really done a great job against everyone else that they've played. I don't think they'll have problems today against Kent State, 38-10. And I think we can say it, Mike Norvell might be one of the best coaches in the nation for sure. And then we got Tulane going on the road at number 13 Ole Miss. Now, this is interesting. Number 13 feels too high for me. They continue to play worse, but get credit and continue to move up in the rankings despite not playing that great. Confusing. And Tulane has been pretty solid. Ole Miss, we saw last week against Arkansas, they didn't play great at home. Week before, they beat Kentucky, didn't play great on the road. They barely won those games by a score. So, I don't know. It's very possible that maybe the margin ends up being wider. Maybe Ole Miss actually plays great. Maybe. But I like Tulane here. I really do. I think this is a really solid upset pick. Tulane's been doing great. And Tulane's one of those great group of 5 teams that are always upset hungry. Where there's a couple of those where a lot of them end up moving up to the big conferences, but some of them this Tulane team that have stuck around certainly are up to par, and I think Tulane's got this one, 27-20. Then we got number 21 Michigan against Nebraska. Now this one is a huge Big Ten game. So many implications of this game. Like we said, we're finally getting into some conference play. Now I know a lot of the ones we mentioned actually aren't, unfortunately, but this one will be. And Michigan, Bryce Underwood, he looks great, But going on the road against a Nebraska team, Nebraska's looks solid, and Dylan Gabriel, he does look good. I don't know. I mean, this one, it really is just going to be a dogfight. And especially at the Cornhusker Stadium, it's going to be a tricky one. I have Nebraska 24-20, and especially Sharon Moore won't be taking place as head coach in this game, as he's serving out that self-imposed suspension. So I got Nebraska on this one. Then we got Purdue against number 24 Notre Dame. The thing about Notre Dame is I understand they're a good team. I understand that on paper maybe they're top 10, and maybe if they play some of the rest of the ranked teams, maybe they do win those. But why not let them earn their ranking? They're 0-2. I understand they're great losses. I get that. But teams like South Florida have 2 great wins and 1 good loss and is gone. Why don't we treat Notre Dame the same? Hey, win a game. Win your way back into the polls. Why are they number 24? That's my issue. I want them to earn their ranking. And I think they'll do so this week against Purdue. I got them 34-9, but that's not huge. I think they still have a lot more to prove. And CJ Carr, he seems solid. And I mean, when you have the best running back in the country in Jeremiah Love, you shouldn't be starting 0-2. And if they had used him better in week 1, I think they might beat Miami. I don't know. But for now, I think 24 is a little high for me. I think they should be unranked. And I think that should lit a fire under them, because I think they want and really need to earn their ranking. They need to have a chip on their shoulder, because these past 2 weeks have been bad. And I know they played good in each game on paper, but it's like you got to win some of these games, and they really just need to earn their ranking. And I think they might. I mean, it's very possible they win out. But why not start ranking them once they get some of those wins? That's all I'm saying. And then we got Temple versus number 18 Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. How about Georgia Tech? Huge upset. And I know Clemson is not really aging well because LSU beat them, and then Troy ended up really doing well against Clemson, and then Georgia Tech ended up beating them in week 3. Clemson is off their rocker. Clemson is rough, and I like Texas in this one over Temple. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say at all. Georgia Tech is great, and 18 feels low for me. I think Georgia Tech's going to win 30-10. Haynes King is a great quarterback for them, and Georgia Tech, they could be scary in that ACC, especially with Clemson dropping out. You think about Florida State and Miami, but we'll see. And then we got South Carolina going on the road at number 23 Missouri. Now, this one could be tricky. I don't know. South Carolina just got absolutely embarrassed last week against Vanderbilt. Absolutely embarrassed. They had trouble putting up any points. They lost by over 20 to a conference opponent. That is bad. It really is. And Missouri, while they haven't beaten anybody crazy, they did beat Kansas. That was a solid win. And they haven't done anything to not be ranked. They've slowly risen over the past few weeks. I think a few weeks ago was the first time they squeaked in, and now they're up to 23. This is tricky. I mean, it could be a trap game with South Carolina, but Missouri's home. And I would pick South Carolina here, but they just looked so rough in that game against Vanderbilt. I can't say that and say that I believe it. I think that's what it is. So I got Missouri 31-29, but I could see that one going the other way. That's all I'm going to say. Then we got Florida against number 4 Miami. Now this one is tricky, and Miami might be one of the best teams in the league. Miami is great. Probably the best resume. I mean, they beat a Notre Dame team that was in the top 10 at the time. I think they were number 6 when they beat them, and is still a ranked team at number 24, and then just dominated a South Florida team that at the time had the best resume in college football. So Miami is pretty solid, and Florida is not. We thought Florida was going to be solid, but that schedule was always going to be an issue. And then suddenly now South Florida's great, and then they beat them. Before they even got to their SC schedule, they already lost. That's really what it came down to. They lost to LSU last week by 10. They threw 5 interceptions, and they only lost by 10? Florida's not a bad team. They need to take care of the football. 5 interceptions is insane. It's insane. And you look at a Miami team, both of these teams played South Florida, by the way, so it's very interesting where South Florida beat Florida 18-16. And then Miami made sure that didn't happen. Miami scored over 40 points. Miami put them away. Once again, I just can't say with a straight face I think Florida has a chance here, which I'm a little surprised game day's going here. I I would probably say they should go to Illinois, Indiana, or Auburn, Oklahoma. But yeah, honestly, Miami's going to win this comfortably. Carson Beck is a monster. Malachi Toney is elite. Mario Cristobal is showing that he's a great coach. He can coach in those top games. He's had some issues over the past few years, but he locked in. He did. And I think Miami's going to win 37-24. Florida's really got to figure something out because Lagway, he's really talented, and his ceiling is so high. But with all those interceptions, he just plummets his stock so much where it's like his potential is there, but it's like with all those mishaps and interceptions, it's like, is it worth it? Where it's like, yeah, I mean, and you might even say like, oh, he's more talented than a guy like Haynes King or Luke Altmaier for that matter. But those guys do what they need to do down the stretch to win games, especially Haynes King. That's the one of note against Clemson where it's like, even though you say like Lagway has that potential, and maybe you say Haynes King doesn't, but like how consistent the guy is and how great he is in those downtown situations where that's where you start to be like, well, sure, Lagway's potential is like through the roof, but like when you look at like the opposite where it's like how low he could go, it's bad. They lost to an LSU team. They were in that game. They lost by 10 points. 5 interceptions. That's the story. And they're going to have to clean that up. And even if they do, I don't think they have a chance here. This is just a tough draw for them. And I think Miami's got that one 37-24. Then we got Georgia State against number 20, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt. What a win. Vanderbilt, that was insane. Great win by Vanderbilt against a South Carolina team that while they were slipping, at least for me, the AP poll had them going up. I started moving them down. They didn't do that great against Virginia Tech. I really didn't feel good about them. But I didn't feel great about Vanderbilt either, which, my bad. I was late to the party on this one, but Vanderbilt is really solid. Certainly not going to have any troubles today, 30-13, and they backed up all the talk they did on South Carolina, and that really was a great game for them. So, Vanderbilt, very solid, 32-13. Then we got Southeast Louisiana against number 3 LSU. Now, LSU is a tricky one to rate because their best win is a tight win against Clemson that looks worse and worse week after week. I mean, you got to say it. It doesn't look good anymore. Clemson is unranked. They're 1-2. And the one game they won, they were rough. So that's what I know. And even in their games, they had a player last week in the quarterback for Florida throw 5 interceptions and only mustered to win the game by 10 points. They didn't look great against Louisiana Monroe. And I know they didn't look great against Clemson, but we gave them the benefit of the doubt because Clemson was the number 4 team in the nation. But where's Clemson? Clemson's gone. That doesn't look great anymore. So as good as LSU may be, I don't know. This is still tricky. And I mean, they're not going to have any problems this week. Obviously, it's one of those deals. But like down the road, I don't like where they're headed, unfortunately. We'll see how they end up panning out, but they got to figure the offense out. That's really a big thing because 5 interceptions, their defense got 5 interceptions. The story has always been their defense is awful and their offense is carrying and their offense is great. And now it's flipped. Now the offense is having struggles, even with returning quarterback Garrett Nussmeier. We had a returning quarterback. He was proven. You'd think they would be able to figure things out a lot better, but somehow it's just flipped, and now the defense is great, and the offense is absent. I still like LSU 27-9, but very disappointed because Garrett Nussmeier is a great QB. At least we thought so. I think he still is, but they really got to figure something out because it is not working. Then we got Sam Houston against number 8 Texas. Now, Texas is not looking good. They were looking rocky against Ohio State, and they lost. But here's what's wrong is that after that game, week after week, Ohio State has continued to improve and build off of that game. Where you see week after week, Julian Sain is doing great throwing the ball. They're expanding the offense more. The defense is looking better. Or it's like week after week, they're continuing to improve. And it's like, how's Texas doing? Arch is still struggling. Arch, it feels like he hasn't made much progress since week 1. He had a pick and a lot of bad throws where he just missed guys against UTEP. They were struggling against UTEP. And you're telling me they're the number 8 team in the nation. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I know they were the preseason number 1 team in the country. I know their quarterback's last name is Manning. I don't care. The on-field results do not support it. They don't. And obviously they're not going to have a problem against Sam Houston, but it's Sam Houston. So I think they're going to win, but I mean, maybe Arch will look ugly again. I hope Arch figures it out, but it's taken them a while, and they really got to do that. So I do like Texas, but I'm not huge on them anymore. I picked them to win that Ohio State game. I was like, you know what, this Julian Sand guy for Ohio State, he might be great, but it's their first ever game against the number one team in the country at the time. And Arch had played games last year, and he looked good. He looked solid last year. I didn't see this coming, and I certainly thought he would have been able to figure it out by this time. So, I mean, he's got another great on-field, real in-game practice in Sam Houston, and I think they'll use it effectively, but, I mean, it's scary hours for Texas. If they don't figure things out quick, once they get into that SEC schedule, it's going to be a tough go of things. But I do have Texas 38-20. Then we got a clash of two historical warriors where we have a Spartans team and a Trojans team. We're going to have Michigan State going on the road, number 25 USC. Now USC is ranked, and do they deserve it? I think you could definitely make the argument that they do. This Michigan State team hasn't lost, so both teams undefeated going into this one. This is huge, and this is going to be very interesting. And I don't know. I'm not huge on either team. Lincoln Riley, since he got to USC, we haven't seen the jump in improvement like we thought we would. And then Michigan State, I mean, I don't know. They got Oregon State's head coach a few years ago and their QB in Aiden Childs. That was a good get for them. And that's kind of starting to pan out this year. But I like Michigan State here just because I like the upset-heavy option, but I don't know. USC might be really good. I'm not entirely sure. This is kind of a 50-50 for me because we're still not too sold because neither team has really played anybody that great. But I got Michigan State 24-20. But I want that's another one where I could certainly see it going the other way. All right, now I'm going to get into some highly anticipated ranked matchups. Now these are huge. We're going to have number 9 Illinois against number 19 Indiana. This game is huge. It's basically a quest for fourth place in the Big Ten, sitting behind Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. Winner of this, I mean, Illinois is probably going to jump up with this quality win. Indiana might jump up into the top 10 if they win this game. And Indiana's home. That's a big part of it, too. And I like Kurt Cignetti, the head coach of Indiana. And they had some growing pains with the new quarterback, Mendoza. It took a minute for that to really settle in and work. But, I mean, Illinois with Luke Altmaier, I don't know. And we've been saying all year, they had 2 ranked matchups. I think USC's on their schedule, too, so they have a third one. But, you know, where it was just like, man, if they can split those, if they can beat Indiana, lose to Ohio State, don't see why they wouldn't be in the playoff. And I think that's certainly evident. And I think Illinois gets it done on the road, 31-30. This is a tight one, though. Luke Altmaier is a great quarterback. He's been there for years. I think they come in with confidence. And I know they're number 9. Are they really number 9? I don't know, because neither team has really been tested. Illinois had that game against Duke where it was a lot closer than the score would indicate, but I got to go Illinois. And especially with how I've been talking up Illinois all year, I got to trust Illinois here. I got them 31-30. Then we got number 22 Auburn going on the road at 11 Oklahoma. Now, obviously, the big story of this is that Auburn's quarterback, Arnold, he was Oklahoma's quarterback last year. Now, I know Oklahoma had a lot of issues last year. Some stuff outside of his control, maybe you say some stuff was, but overall, I don't believe it was overall all on him and his fault. He transfers away and goes to Auburn. Now look at Auburn. They're sitting at number 22. Going on the road at number 11, Oklahoma. This is a huge revenge game for Arnold. It is. He's going against his former team and with another SEC team. Oklahoma still feels like they probably got the better end of the deal because they ended up replacing him with John Mateer. John Mateer looks great. He might be the best performing quarterback in the season. Mateer has played great. And this game is huge. And Venable's squad at Oklahoma is certainly going to give Auburn a lot of trouble. And at home, I think that's the biggest thing. It's at home. So I'm really struggling to pick this one because I do like Auburn. I think they're good, but Oklahoma's been proven. Oklahoma had the great win against Michigan where even though the score might tell you it was kind of close, Oklahoma controlled that game. And even though I like Auburn, they haven't done too much other than beating a Baylor team that then beat the 16 team in the nation. And that Baylor win is about the best that they have. And Oklahoma beat a Michigan team that was like 14 when they beat them, and is like 21 or so now. Yeah, they're 21. So this one could be interesting, but especially with Arnold's revenge game, we'll see how he balls out because he's a great quarterback. But I like Oklahoma here. It really comes down to home field advantage, unfortunately, because this is a huge game. But I do think Oklahoma's the better team. I got them 37-34. Then we have what I think is probably the game of the week. The number 17 Texas Tech Red Raiders go on the road at number 16 Utah Utes. Both have played phenomenal this year. Both have been amazing. And, I mean, you look at this 16 and 17, it is kind of like a coin flip. Now, how are the Utes been doing? Well, I mean, 3-0. And when you really look into their year, they've really played great. And against the teams that they've beat, they've done very well for themselves. Where you look at them blowing out UCLA week 1, 43-10. Blew out Cal Poly, 63-9. Blew out Wyoming, 31-6. So even though you say going into this one they haven't had a huge test, but they've had a lot of impressive performances, and their quarterback, Devin Dampier, is elite, and he's a great dual threat guy. He's been throwing the ball very well. He's certainly a star. And then you have one of the better college coaches in Kyle Whittingham. So the Utes are very positioned to do great things in the Big 12. And I do believe, by the way, the winner of this game is probably in control of the Big 12. As much as I like Iowa State, they were a little shaky against Arkansas State, and this is certainly going to be the best win for any of those programs, especially with Iowa State's win against Kansas State really looking bad week to week. So I think the winner of this game probably jumps up considerably in the rankings. Honestly, them being this low is kind of criminal already. This should probably be like a 12-13 type game because there's a lot of teams ahead of them that have been shaky, and these teams certainly have not been. Or you look at Texas Tech, they played Arkansas Pine Bluff in week 1. Obviously, that's not a great opponent. Beat them 67-7. Played Kent State in week 2. Not a great opponent. 62-14. Then they played Oregon State, who is technically, if you include the Pac-12 as a power conference, not really anymore. But Texas Tech blew the doors off them 45-14. This is their huge test, though. And I don't know. This is tricky. And they got to go on the road, too. I think that's a big part, but I don't know. Because Texas Tech, I mean, their quarterback, Morton, looks really solid. He had 4 touchdown passes against Oregon State. He threw for 464 yards. That guy's a star. We'll see how he does against a better Utah defense. But honestly, I like the experience in Kyle Whittingham. I like Devin Dampier. And I think that they have a lot of experience. And just the Utah teams of the past few years, especially led the guy who's been there the whole time, Kyle Whittingham. So that's where my trust kind of comes in, and that's where I end up sort of making my pick, where I have Utah 44-41. All right, and it'll be interesting to see how I do in my picks, because week 1 was pretty solid. I went 23-5. Then week 2, I was 19-3. That was pretty good. But last week, maybe I went a little too upset heavy. I took a lot of risks last week and ended up being 16-5. But it wasn't terrible. But, yeah, I could definitely do better. And I like a lot of these picks. And we'll have to see how it plays out this weekend. That's right. Once again, it's the Buzzsaw. So far it's done pretty well. And I know technically it wasn't named this, but when I ran through the games in week 2, I was 42-13. And then last week I was 29-14. So lost a step a little bit. But we're hoping to get back on track with the Buzzsaw. So we'll see how well it does this week. I'm pretty optimistic. And last week I maybe took a lot of upset leaps. I kind of talked about that with Jack and then on my previews as well. I took a lot of stretches and leaps because I was a lot more reserved than I wanted to be. And that was boring. So I switched it up. And it didn't work out a lot across the board. But so the ones that I did get were pretty cool. So now let's get into the Buzzsaw. All right, so Arkansas, Memphis. I'm going to go you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take Memphis. And Maryland, Wisconsin. I'll take Maryland on the road. Syracuse at Clemson. I'll say Clemson gets back on track this week. Then Wofford at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech looks rough. They just fired their coach. I might take the upset here. I'll take Wofford, sure. Why not? SMU at TCU. 2 teams that are certainly on the outskirts of the top 25. TCU's at home. I'll take them. Then Bowling Green at Louisville. I'll go Louisville in that one. And then let's see. UNLV at Miami, Ohio. UNLV's got that one. North Texas at Army. North Texas actually looks good, surprisingly. I got North Texas there, actually. South Carolina State at South Florida. I think South Florida's getting back on track this week. I got South Florida in that one. Wagner and Central Michigan. Ooh, I'll do Central Michigan. They're at home. And then, let's see, North Carolina at UCF. I'll go UCF. Ball State at UConn. I'll take Ball State there. And then James Madison at Liberty. I'll go Liberty. And then Louisiana at Eastern Michigan. I'm taking Eastern Michigan. They're home, so I'll take them. Troy at Buffalo. I do have to go Troy here. And then Toledo at Western Michigan. I think Toledo's got that one. And Gardner-Webb and Ohio. I'll take Ohio there at home. NC State at Duke. I'm taking the Blue Devils. I think the Blue Devils got that one. And then the Northern Illinois. At Mississippi State. That's just a tough matchup. Mississippi State's got that one. Easy. Idaho at San Jose State. I'll go San Jose State there. I like them in that one. And then West Virginia and Kansas. That's a tricky one. I like Kansas, though. Delaware at Florida International. Both teams look actually solid last week. I like Florida International more, though. I'll take them. Then Arkansas State at Kennesaw State. That's an interesting one. Arkansas State looked great against Iowa State. I'll take them, Arkansas State. And then Duquesne against Akron. Well, once again, a few years ago, they beat BYU in March Madness, and I picked that game. So give me Duquesne for no reason, because that's not football. And then Murray State at Jacksonville State. I'll take Jacksonville State at home, and then Marshall at Middle Tennessee. That's such a random name. It works, but it's random. I'll go Middle Tennessee. Then UT Martin against Missouri State. I'll take Missouri State. And then Nevada at Western Kentucky. Yeah, I'll take Western Kentucky there. And then this is an interesting one. Boise State at Air Force. I think Boise State's got it. And then Maine at Georgia Southern is going to be interesting, but I got Georgia Southern. And then I'll take Coastal Carolina. No, I got South Alabama over Coastal Carolina. And then I'm going to go Washington over Washington State. I think they win that one on the road. And then I'll also take Stanford over Virginia. Ooh, this is a big game. Arizona State and Baylor. This is going to be huge. Give me the Sun Devils on the road, but hesitantly. But no. You know what? No. Give me Baylor. I'm taking Baylor. And then I'll take BYU over East Carolina. Ooh, Southern Miss against Louisiana Tech. This is a tough one. Southern Miss looks solid, and then Louisiana Tech did decent against LSU. I'm going to go Southern Miss. SC, Louisiana, no. And then McNeese and Utah State. I'll go Utah State there. And then Nichols at Texas State. I'll go Texas State. And then, Louisiana Monroe against UTEP. UTEP looked fairly solid against Texas. I'll go them. And then UTSA versus Colorado State. Give me Colorado State. Wyoming at Colorado. I got to go Colorado there. Cal at San Diego State. Cal looks good. Cal legitimately looks good. They just beat Minnesota. Going Cal. Michigan State at USC. I already did that one. And then Fresno State at Hawaii. I'll go Fresno State in that one. So that's the soft Week 4 edition. See how good we do. Honestly, last week I felt a lot better, and then the games happened, and it didn't end up turning out that great. But overall, it's pretty solid. And first 2 weeks were a lot better, so we'll see how that one pans out. All right, now ever since me and Jack really expressed our disagreements with the AP poll, I've been really excited to do this top 25 week to week, where we have the Ben Buzz top 25. And just the AP poll continues to get more and more atrocious week after week, so this is the real top 25 teams. So at number 25, I got South Florida. I think it's a little ridiculous to take them completely out. I dropped them maybe too much, but honestly, I think it's fine. They blew out Boise State. They beat a good Florida team on the road, and they kind of got housed by a great Miami team. It's not enough to knock them out of the top 25 for me. That's where they fall. Then number 24, I got Alabama. And Alabama did get embarrassed by Florida State. They did. And I know that's a good loss, but none of their wins are impressive. And I think they are solid and they have talent, but I just can't do it. I can't put them at 14 like the AP poll has done. Very silly. That's as high as they could possibly go for me currently. But yeah, that's where I have Alabama. And then I got Michigan at 23. Now, they didn't really get embarrassed against Oklahoma. It was a tough road game for their freshman QB. He just wasn't ready for it. And even though it wasn't necessarily all his fault, that's kind of, maybe if he had more experience, this is a very talented team still. And I think Underwood certainly has a lot of room to grow. And this week against Nebraska is going to be huge. If they don't win this game, that is bad news for Michigan. They'll certainly be out, and we'll have to see what happens in that game. Then at number 22, we got the Missouri Tigers. Now, I know they beat Kansas, but none of them are super impressive. No rank wins, nothing like that. I've kind of just slowly risen them up as the AP poll kind of does. Drinkowitz is a great coach. So even though I'm not too high on Missouri quite yet, which is why I have them reserved at 22, I think they're still pretty solid. And then number 21 is Auburn. Honestly, I think Auburn maybe could go higher. Jackson Arnold's a great QB, of course, transferring over from Oklahoma. Auburn looks really solid, and in that game against Oklahoma this weekend, that is going to be huge. So we'll see how Jackson Arnold ends up moving up. And this whole Auburn team, if they win that game, sky's the limit for Auburn. We'll see how that plays out. But I don't see that. I think it could be unlikely. Oklahoma's very solid, but very interesting matchup there. All right, now for the next 5 teams. Mississippi State falls at 20 for me. That win against Arizona State is still very impressive to me. They've had a pretty solid schedule. Not crazy, and last week they blew out a team, but week 1 they played a Southern Miss team that was supposed to be on the come-up, and even though they were close with them for a minute, they ended up pulling away. And then the Arizona State game, very impressive to me. And some of these teams, especially the ones behind them that the AP poll actually has ahead of them, haven't done things as impressive as Mississippi State. They fall at 20 for me. Then we got Indiana, and this is a tricky team to rank because Mendoza, the new QB, is still settling in. And this game where you see where I have Illinois, it's going to be 16 versus 19 in my eyes, and it's going to be very interesting. I think Indiana has the ability to win that game, and they're at home, so that's going to be very tricky for Illinois on the road. Then I had Ole Miss at number 18. This is a little tricky one for me. I think 13 is atrocious, and they're not the 13th. Especially in an AP poll, they should not be number 13. Very ridiculous, and Lane Kiffin's a good coach, but I cannot put them that high. And then number 17, I got Iowa State. I think their QB, Rocco Becht, is certainly a great player, and their coach, Matt Campbell, is great, but I dropped in some spots after last week due to that performance against Arkansas State, and I know they won, but that's a team that they really shouldn't have issues with, and they really did struggle. They only won by 8. They were tied in the fourth quarter at one point, I believe. It was too close. That's all it is. It was too close, and so I have to drop them a little bit. Same thing with Ole Miss. It was too close 2 weeks in a row. I got to drop them a little bit. And then Illinois, this is just a team, no fault of their own that I dropped them simply because other teams behind them I kind of either trust more or they've done more, and that's where Illinois kind of falls for me. And even though I think that they're certainly a top team, and if they beat Indiana, I think I will slide them up there in the top 10. But for now, that's where I have them until they prove themselves against teams that I either feel better about or just simply have done more. All right, now we start to get into my top 15. So at 15, I got Tennessee, and I had thought it was atrocious for them to be 15 last week when they hadn't done much to solidify their statement in the rankings, and such a jump as well. They moved up 7 spots, if you remember that. But they proved it. They proved themselves. They proved they're a top 15 team in the nation, and now I moved them up to 15, where the AP poll already had them there before they proved themselves. But yeah, I have them at 15 now, and Vanderbilt I have a little ahead of them. Vanderbilt. What a performance. They soundly beat South Carolina. And South Carolina was kind of on upset alert for a minute. They didn't play great against a Virginia Tech team that just fired their coach because they were, started 0-3. Very bad start for Virginia Tech. And that's a team that South Carolina barely beat, where it's like, if you were kind of looking, you could kind of see this coming. And I didn't pick Vanderbilt to win that game against South Carolina, but I did start moving South Carolina down. Wasn't as high on them as the committee was, but still wasn't on the money. Like I said earlier, was late to the party on Vanderbilt. I think they slide at 14 for me. Then Georgia Tech, I got him at 13. Haynes King is spectacular. That was a great game-winning drive, great field goal to solidify it against Clemson. Georgia Tech is great. And then I got Texas Tech at 12. This is one of those teams where I feel really good about them, and especially with this matchup against Utah. I mean, it's going to be really tricky. We'll see how it plays out. But I really like Texas Tech in this. Their QB's been playing great. He almost passed for 500 yards last week. They've been playing great. 3-0 start. And I know they haven't played anybody, but I really feel good about them. And against that Utah team, I know I picked Utah, but this game is going to be insane. And then that's where I kind of slide Texas. Honestly, if we're being honest, they might be too high. I'm really not high on Texas. But, I mean, if at the end of the day, are you saying, like, in a head-to-head, you think they'll beat Texas Tech or Georgia Tech? Like, I don't know. But they haven't played great, and that Ohio State game should not be a showing of things to come. It should be showing improvements week to week. And I felt like we kind of saw that against San Jose State and really didn't against UTEP. I really do think Texas needs to figure this out. They really need to get a whole lot better. I give them some grace, and I put them at 11, which I mean, may still even be too high. I don't know, but I don't think they're top 10 right now. And then at number 10, I had Utah. Now, Utah really looks great. Devin Dampier's electric. And we'll see how they end up playing against Texas Tech in that, for me, 10 versus 12 matchup. And Kyle Whittingham's a great coach, so it's really going to be an interesting matchup. I'm really hyped for this one. Big Noon Saturday is going to be there. It's going to be great. And it's going to be a great atmosphere in Utah, in Salt Lake. And I think it's going to be very interesting. And whoever wins that game is going to jump up, too, as well. And then I had Penn State at number 9. And I have them there because although I think their coach is great and they had a lot of returning talent, and I think this team is a great one, but there's so many teams ahead of them that, once again, have either done more or have kind of looked better. And I think that certainly resembles kind of what I said with Illinois. And Penn State, I mean, they haven't looked great, and they didn't schedule anybody. And now they're going into a bye. Going into that game against Oregon, they're going to be really unprepared. Whoever wins that game is really going to skyrocket in the rankings as well. And then that's where I put Oklahoma. John Mateer has been insane. And the way they handled Michigan at home, and albeit it was at home, but the way they handled them was great. And Oklahoma could be really solid. I think they do beat Auburn this weekend, so they might even go up beyond this with 2 ranked wins. That would be pretty solid. Then Texas A&M at 7. And not only were they undefeated, but that Notre Dame win was really huge. And no matter what you say about Notre Dame, I know I don't have them on this list, but I believe that they should earn their ranking, and I'll start putting them in once they start winning games. But Texas A&M, I put them at 7. Then Oregon looks really solid. Dan Lanning is an elite coach. Dante Moore from UCLA is so great. That's where they slide for me. And I know Texas A&M and Oklahoma are more proven, but Oregon looks so dominant, and they've looked far better than Penn State in their week schedule. And Oregon has even started Big Ten play where they trashed on Northwestern. Now, I know Northwestern is not great, but going into this game, I think Oregon's going to take care of business this weekend against Oregon State, and I think they do beat Penn State next week. And then here's my top 5. So at number 5, I had Florida State. And I think this Florida State squad is really talented. Mike Norvell is such an incredible coach. Castellanos has looked great. And that win against Alabama, and I know I still have them ranked, but not just beating them, the way they beat them was just so dominant. And even if you look at the score, you might think it was closer than it actually was. Florida State, what a performance. And I know they haven't played anyone outside of that. We'll see how that changes when they play Miami next week. That's going to be huge. And then I had Georgia at 4. Now, I know they didn't look great for a lot of the game against Tennessee, but they found a way to win. And, I mean, they did it to little brother again, where I feel like this is the same story with Georgia and Tennessee, where they beat them close, except the defenses were just gone. And Georgia ended up pulling away with one in overtime. I think they very easily could have lost this one, but I think Tennessee is also a good team. So I think it shows volumes that Georgia competed the way they did. Then I had LSU at 3. That might be too high, honestly. We might have to start knocking LSU. If things don't get better next week, I will start knocking LSU. I'll say that right now. And, I mean, if you pick off a team 5 times in a game and you only win by 10, that's embarrassing. It really is. And obviously that Clemson win isn't looking great, and they didn't look great against Louisiana Tech. I probably should have dropped them already, but I'm giving them a little grace where I'm saying, I'll give them one more week. If it looks the same and if it keeps getting bad and worse, I mean, you can't have 5 picks and only win by 10 points. How does that even happen? And also, how did you pick them off 5 times? That's a testament to their defense, but also, the run game is struggling. We were expecting Newsmeyer to do better, all of the above with that offense. But I do give them a little grace for now. But if it continues, I will start to drop them. But I did sneak a team ahead of them in Miami at number 2. Now, I don't think this should really be a hot take. Best resume in the country. Let's break it down. They beat Notre Dame, and the AP poll still has them ranked. They beat Notre Dame when they were number 6, and then they beat South Florida when they were number 18. Now, and think about those resumes. I know Notre Dame hasn't done great, but you look at a South Florida team that had beat Florida on the road, where we talk about how teams win on the SEC, or LSU, they went on the road. They had to get 4 picks. South Florida beat them on the road. South Florida beat that Florida team. So it's that's not as impressive because or do you just say South Florida's a great team? And I think they are. And Miami is great. Carson Beck is looking so good. Malachi Toney, very, very great team. And, I mean, honestly, they've looked better. They've been out playing LSU. They've outplayed the rest of the teams in the top 10, I believe, outside of maybe Ohio State. Well, I really could have put them at 1, but I'm holding off for a week or two just to be sure, because that's the reigning national champions, and if you put them above them, you really need to be sure, I think. And that's my number 1. It's still Ohio State, and Julian Sain is really starting to settle in, and their weapons are great. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, and then they have one of the best defensive players in the country in Caleb Downs. I mean, Ohio State looks amazing. So that's where my top 25 kind of settles out. And in terms of teams that I snuck in that the AP poll didn't, I think Mississippi State and South Florida were certainly ones that I felt really got snubbed from the AP top 25. And you can see how I'm even consistently moving Mississippi State up. I think they deserve that. And I know the AP poll isn't doing it, but I will. I see you, Mississippi State. I see what you've done, and I'm giving you that number 20 ranking. So that's my top 25. I feel pretty good about that. We'll see how they end up doing this weekend. And in all likelihood, we'll see how much worse the AP top 25 gets. That's going to do it for this episode of the Ben Buzz. I felt pretty good about my top 25, the Buzzsaw. I'm really happy with everything that's going on with that. And then a lot of my ranked matchups. And college football has been giving us really great weeks, and it's been so long without it. So even if we had a bad week, I would still appreciate it, because having any football is far better than no football. So really appreciate college football for consistently giving us great weeks. And like I've said, it will not disappoint. I don't think it's going to stop. We've got great ranked matchups, great atmospheres. It's electric in September, in the thick of college football season, and it really is so far great. And we haven't had a bad week yet. We've had so many great games, and that's definitely not going to stop with a bunch of great matchups this Saturday. This is the Ben Buzz, starring Benny King. Thanks for tuning in.